Be wary not to cook too hard, lest thou burneth thyself. I think Shakespeare probably said that. So with Oshinoko's second season underway, I feel like I gotta let it be known that the manga falls off hard. It's really frustrating because I really did love the series. I read it before the anime was announced and I followed it up until the worst kept spoiler in the manga. Yes, this video will have major spoilers, by the way. It was at that moment that I quite literally rage quit the series. This doesn't happen very often. Usually I can withstand a subpar arc or two, you know? Skypiea and Long Ring Longland from One Piece, it's a small price to pay for back-to-back banger arcs. But Oshinoko went completely astray with very questionable moments that added up until I was left with a metaphorical, nasty patty that I could no longer consume. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when the manga author cooks too hard.
It's f***ing raw!
So first of all, I think we can all agree that the concept for the show is weird as hell, even laughably bizarre. Explaining the first episode to somebody who's never heard of the show would be a nightmare. You have this doctor who loves idols, and one day he gets a new patient who happens to be a pregnant idol, the same one he always watches. Interesting twist, but oh no, the doctor has another patient who wants to marry him, but he also likes her for some reason.
Bruh.
And she's a kid. The doctor gets murdered before he can deliver the idol's baby. Then he gets reincarnated as the idol's son. Wait, that other patient from earlier gets reincarnated as the idol's daughter? Oh look, now they're a happy family. Wait, the mother gets murdered? It's absolutely bonkers, but I'm willing to let this insanity slide because it's an entertaining story for the most part. We get compelling characters and we get to see this expose on some of the darker aspects of the entertainment industry. All in all, we get a pretty good stew cooking in the first season. At least that's what I thought until I reevaluated the story, but we'll get to that later. As for the Tokyo Blade arc, this one's pretty good. It's where Aqua's character really gets to shine. Kinda sucks that Ruby isn't in this arc at all, but I guess a wannabe idol doesn't really fit with the current situation. Still, it was a great arc. And then it ends, and Aqua resumes to find the killer. Lo and behold, he discovers his stepbrother. He's this close to finding the target of his revenge, and then the father's already dead. Bro, what? You're telling me all this effort was for nothing? If you're like me, you don't believe this bull, and you would be right because the father is still alive after all. I swear Akasaka loves trolling. It's funny, but it's not good for the story though. So next, B Komachi goes to the town where both Aqua and Ruby were born and raised. It was also where they lost their original lives. I like the setup, actually. It may be a little bit contrived, but it would surely lead to some crazy moments. Like a supernatural lolly goddess who happens to know about the reincarnation. Yeah, Akasaka's bringing in some magical shit now. Honestly, at this point in the story, I'd stopped caring about an explanation for the reincarnation, but Akasaka just had to end another chapter in a crazy cliffhanger. One of these magical crows eventually leads Ruby back to the corpse of the doctor, so she's sad now. And then the doctor basically tells Ruby about the murder that began the story and says, now it's your job to figure out the rest of the mystery. Yeah, I don't really know who this random girl is, but as of now, she's literally just a plot device. That's all of basically what happens in the private arc. But I guess Ruby's edgy now. Whoa. As far as Aqua knows, his father is still dead, so he literally does nothing in this arc. Like, he just sits there. Instead, it's Ruby who actually does all the conniving manipulation and stuff like that. Although technically she doesn't really because she's just getting advice from this guy. Once again, I find it annoying that the story only seems to be able to explore one of the two main characters at a time. It's kind of disappointing, but oh well. In this arc, Aqua's character really starts falling apart. Basically, he finds out that his father is still most likely out there somewhere. Turns out the stepbrother's biological father was probably someone different from the actual father who died. Honestly, this whole thing with Aqua learning of his father's death is pretty bad. You can't just remove a character's entire motivations like that. I get that it's supposed to show how his life might be better when he's not searching for revenge, but it's not like his life was bad in the first place. Also, we don't really see how his life improves from like giving up on this revenge, especially considering that most of the arc focuses on Ruby. Now that I look back, Aqua's overall character arc is honestly not that well developed. You see, when a character vows revenge, one of two things should probably happen. They become consumed with the revenge and become evil, or they renounce their violent ways and farm for the rest of their lives. It's not like they need to farm, but you get the point. There's usually no in-between because it would be boring to have a character that enacts revenge without having to deal with any moral dilemmas. This father dead plot point could have actually been good, but there's never been any real consequences for Aqua being all cold and calculated. It's the same thing for Ruby, actually. There's a part in the manga that said her new twisted nature made cracks everywhere, but it doesn't really happen. The character writing is kind of falling off, but let's get back to the story. So coincidentally, Akane bumps into the father. Yeah, she just runs into the killer who Aqua was searching for this whole time. Where does she find him? Oh, just in a random ass award show. She goes to meet with Aqua, but she's holding white roses. The same one brought by Ai's killer. Does this mean Akane is gonna die? Nope. It's just another one of those cliffhangers that doesn't actually lead to anything. Luckily, Aqua finally discovers his target, a man named Hikaru Kamiki. Now the plot can actually resume. Psych, Kana Arima needs to get into a scandal first. Basically, for like 8 chapters or so, Kana goes with an older man to his private workplace and someone snaps a picture of it. This man happens to be an up-and-coming movie director who wants to cast Kana and also do some sussy things. Hold on, let's check Kana's age real quick. Okay, just making sure. I mean, as much as I like Kana, this arc just turns her into a damsel in distress, which is annoying considering the significant character growth she's been through in the story. But in the end, it's Aqua that saves her by releasing the true identity of his mom. Yeah, this arc is really just a stepping stone for the edgy boy's revenge. Oh well, at least it was short. Now that Aqua knows the identity of Ai's killer, he changes his revenge plan a bit. He's not just gonna kill the killer, no, he's gonna make a movie to expose everything. I kinda like this, it's more creative than a regular revenge plot. It's also directly tied to the entertainment industry. Well, it would be great if it wasn't for the fact the mystery is completely gone now. Wasn't that the main hook for Aqua's story arc? The fact that he has to find out his mother's killer? On top of that, Kamiki doesn't even do anything to fight against Aqua. He's literally the most unthreatening antagonist, and it's not even close. Well, it would be an overstatement to call him an antagonist at all. Of course, it's not necessary for all stories to have a big, bad, scary villain, but when the full mystery is revealed and the killer doesn't do anything in response, it removes so much tension from the story. Imagine Death Note, but Kira just doesn't do anything against L. Kamiki, this guy, he just stands around and sometimes talks to Ruby. It's like, bruh, why does dude exist? Anyway, before movie production starts, there's a whole thing where Ruby, Akane, and Frill all compete to see who would play the lead role of Ai. But we all know it's gonna be Ruby. It would be kind of bad for the story if it were anybody else. After all this pre-production stuff is settled, the movie begins real production, and we're introduced to a woman from the advertising agency named Tendoji-san. Does that name sound familiar? Oh, it's Sarina's mom? The introduction of Sarina's mom is actually a great way to add more context to Ruby's deteriorating mental state as she contemplates her past life without loving parents. It's pretty sad. With the addition of her extremely busy acting schedule and lack of sleep, she has a mental breakdown, but luckily Aqua's there to help comfort her. Then he ends up revealing some information that only the doctor from Ruby's previous life could have known, and when Ruby finds out, she says she wants him to marry her. Well, that's where I rage quit the manga initially, right when this chapter came out. I was like, what am I even reading now? What happened to the story? Come on. Things were already falling apart, but now this. So obviously, Akasaka is just trolling the fan base because there are weirdly a lot of people who ship Aqua and Ruby for some reason, but all the things that happened since the Tokyo Blade arc have just really added together, leaving a sour taste in my mouth. Honestly, Ruby was having such an emotional scene as she dealt with her trauma. Like, this is the first time she was actually getting some good character development, I think, and Akasaka pulls this? Goodness gracious. But yeah, that's where I dropped Oshinoko for a while. But I couldn't resist picking it up again after hearing it's on its final arc. I thought no way it could get worse, right? Well, I guess we'll just have to see. You know what? After that weird stuff, the story becomes a little more normal now. Except for one thing. Remember that creepy girl with the crows from earlier? Yeah, Aqua just casually recruits her to act in the movie, all in the space of one chapter. This is some really surface level manipulation here. I can't believe the argument of skill issue was enough to convince her. I thought the girl was supposed to be some powerful entity, and the child body was just some sort of vessel for an older being. You know, the 1,000-year-old lolly trope, but she definitely does just act like a child. It really detracts from her mysterious, menacing aura. Another character basically ruined. Not that she was that interesting in the first place. This manga tries way too hard to subvert expectations when it's not necessary. It's the same thing that ruined the new Star Wars trilogy. In any case, the girl now has a name, albeit a stage name. It's Tsukuyomi, the Japanese god of the moon. It's still unclear what her main purpose in the story will be, though I guess we'll find out later. Anyway, along with the rest of the crew, filming begins. Even the old B Komachi members come back to watch the performances of their younger selves. But then it turns out one of the members, Nino, is actually working with Kamiki. It's pretty crazy. And then Kana finally reveals how jealous she is of Ruby, causing a schism between them. It's interesting that the character Kana plays in the movie parallels her current feelings, giving the filming process a deeper sense of emotional impact. By correlation, Ruby and Ai are further developed because they're co-stars. For most of the story, Ai hasn't really been explored that much, mostly because she's, dead. But now we actually get tons of insight by seeing how Ruby is trying to portray her late mother. We get a culmination where Ruby ad-libs a part that really channels Ai's inner anger, something that could only happen because of Kana, who does a great job as a supporting character within the movie and within the manga itself. I can't believe I'm saying it, but this is good stuff. Maybe the manga is actually headed in a better direction. Nope. Ruby has to do a kissing scene with her brother in the movie. Yeah, Kana's face is my exact reaction. Even though Aka was the one who wrote the script for the movie, the one who made the kissing scene is actually the mangaka from the Tokyo Blade arc and her assistant. Naturally, Aqua is reluctant to follow through with the scene, but when he talks to Ruby, she suggests that they roleplay their past lives so that they can rehearse kissing alone in their house. No shot, Aqua will relent, right? Wait, Ruby, no! Why did you have to kiss him? Akasaka, bro, what is this guy cooking? Well, it isn't long before filming finally ends and Ruby visits her mother's grave, again, only to run into Kamiki. Useless, stupid character. This guy makes me so angry. At this rate, the story is on a sinking cardboard boat and Akasaka is trying to keep it afloat by taping apples to the bottom. I don't know why that's the first analogy that came to mind, but I'm rolling with it. After all the hard work filming, the characters are, of course, rewarded with a beach day. Eventually, the movie also has its first screening, which turns out to be pretty successful so far. It's got people crying in the theater, and it does its job of exposing Kamiki's crimes. Later, Aqua has an interview where he answers some interesting questions before it's revealed that the journalist is none other than Hikaru Kamiki himself. And then Aqua says the line, "Acting is my revenge." Oh yeah, maximum edginess. Following the interview, Aqua shows Kamiki some secret footage that wasn't in the original release of the movie. It shows how Ai really did like Kamiki and that he shouldn't have killed her because it was all a misunderstanding. Then bro just heads out. Well, revenge complete, I guess. But not actually, because Aqua sets his sight on one more person directly involved with Ai's death. Nino, the former B Komachi member. How does he suspect her? I don't actually know, because I don't think he ever found out about her, but I don't really care at this point. With that, the manga enters its final arc, and nothing much has really happened so far. I don't imagine it's going to finish anytime soon, though. But still, having caught up with the story as of chapter 157, I had to reevaluate the series as a whole and ask an important question. Has it always been bad from the start?
I got some shit from saying that Oshi no Ko was terrible. I'm not terrible, I was just cringe. I didn't enjoy it.
I'll get straight to the point. Other than a few really good moments, such as the first episode and Akane's storyline, the story is not as good as I remembered it to be. It's also extremely messy. To explain this point, let me ask another question. What is the show actually about? Is it about idols, acting, parasocial relationships? Well, obviously, it's about the entertainment industry as a whole, you might say. It's about all those things, but, the entertainment industry is absolutely gigantic. There's a reason why something like Bakuman decides to focus on manga writing. That's because having only one topic allows the story to be much more streamlined in its themes and its critiques. I applaud Oshinoko for being so ambitious, but unfortunately, it just falls short trying to accomplish too many things. The first episode, while being weird as hell, still sets up a very compelling murder mystery revenge plot. And yet, what is the first season actually about? It's about high schoolers, a reality show, and mostly idols. I think that takes up most of the screen time, actually. Aqua follows up on some leads toward his mother's killer, but they're fairly insignificant. Instead, most of the show, including the climax, is focused around the new B Komachi, and the murder mystery is turned to a C-plot at best. Sure, we get to watch some interesting characters, but in the end the show basically lies to the audience. Isn't that ironic? I don't hate idol anime per se, but this part of the plot is way too happy. Wasn't the first episode supposed to establish the dark side of being an idol? But when Ruby pursues this dream, nothing crazy comes out of it other than, the surface level struggles of every content creator. Obviously, the new B Komachi is supposed to mirror Ai's original group, but it falls short in conveying any significant message other than try hard and you'll succeed. You could copy-paste this same idol group in any show and it wouldn't make much of a difference. It's a shame because Ruby could have been a super interesting character. She's someone who stays optimistic despite tragic events, and the story could challenge her by having her deal with the same things I had to deal with. It would make for some compelling writing, seeing if Ruby will persevere or break under the pressure. Other than some parts later in the story, Ruby barely contributes anything in these first arcs, and she's basically absent during the Tokyo Blade arc. The closest we get to the tone of the first episode is Akane's storyline, which is fantastic. But then she falls in love with Aqua, and that's basically her entire purpose for the rest of the story. Like, she gets her rivalry with Kana, but after the whole Tokyo Blade arc, she just gets wasted. She becomes an unbelievably boring two-dimensional Aqua sim. Now, speaking of Aqua, he kinda sucks, now that I think about it, and he's cringe. Don't even get me started with how weird it is that he's a middle-aged dude who has feelings for his child patient, or that he's a middle-aged dude that has feelings for his literal mother, or that he's a middle-aged dude who forms a harem of high school girls. I think he gets some pretty good development in the Tokyo Blade arc as he learns to love acting and he has to deal with trauma, but the arc has nothing to do with the original murder mystery. The show itself has no idea what it's about. So due to how messy the plot is, the show really falls short in most of its critiques. It's such a shame because sometimes the show actually does something great, like the whole reality dating arc. But then there's the rest of it.
Why?
As a side note though, and I hate that I'm saying this, but after looking into the incest arc just a little bit more, I came to realize that it kind of served a larger purpose in the sense that it helps Aqua and Ruby come to terms with their past lives so that they're not their past selves anymore, they're actually Aqua and Ruby. But it was still a stupid arc that I did not enjoy reading. The story has reached a point where it's just introducing crazy twists for the sake of it, rather than, writing an actual cohesive plot. Honestly, it's still kind of exciting to see what crazy plot point is going to happen next, but only in the same way that it's entertaining to watch a dumpster on fire. In conclusion, Oshinoko has always been a bit of a disaster, but it's even worse now. At least the opening slaps.